Hello, my name is Cynthia Barberan, and today I will present my APA citation portfolio focusing on the topic of inclusion in education. In this video, I will show my three select academic sources how I cited them in APA 7 format. The notes I made on the citation is used and conclude with a personal reflection on the process. Point number one. Sources and justification. First, I select three sources that I consider relevant to my research on inclusion in education. The first is the book Improving School Developing Inclusion by high school voter Dyson, published in 2006. I chose this book because it offers a fundamental perspective on how a school can transform to support all students. The second source is the article exploring inclusive pedagogy by Florian and Black Hawkins from 2011. I find this article important because it introduces the concept of inclusive pedagogy, which relates to teaching strategy for addressing diversity in the classroom. Finally, I chose the 2020 UNESCO report, Global Education Monitoring Report 2020, Inclusion and Educational means all. This report offers inclusion in education. Allow me to compare it with local reality. Point number two. Reference and in the text citation. Below are the reference format in APA 7. For example, I scored both TI Dyson 2006 Improving School Developing Inclusion Rowlet. I also wrote sentences with quotation in the text to illustrate their using. I scored it 2006 argued that school culture and practice most change achieve inclusion. In Florian and Black Hawkins 2011, it described inclusive pedagogy as a strategy for responding to diversity in the classroom. According to UNESCO 2020, millions of children still face educational inclusion due to systematic barriers. Point number three. Annotation. Next to each reference and citation, I made annotation explaining which APA rule I applied and why. For example, in the book by Ice Cook, it applied the APA rule for books later in italics, authors with initials and I, the DOI, and the N. The most difficult part was finding the correct DOI for a book. In the article by Florian and Black Hawkins, following the rules for journal articles, bold in italics, number in parentheses, and the DOI. The challenge was correctly inserting the page range and DOI. For the UNESCO report and use the institutional author start listening the organization name as the author and using the DOI instead of a regular URL. The hardest part was finding the report official DOI. Final reflection. By creating this portfolio, I learned a lot about proper APA 7 citation, especially the use of doing citing institutional sources. At first, it was confusing to remember all details, but by consulting official guides and practicing, feel more confident. In the future, I will use reference managers and always check the original sources to maintain accuracy and avoid errors. Thank you for listening to me.